This video was made possible with the help of Game Toppers. Upgrade your gaming experience with a Game Topper.
The night is mine, and everyone will run in fear because I am Dogman. Okay, yeah. Being a hero is not so much fun. So, Batman has finally landed. And this is it. This is all of it so far. It's a big stinking pile of game. And in this video, I'm not going to really talk to you a lot about the game mechanics and how they play and how I like them, because I've done that in other videos. Yes, you can check out my first impressions video, wobbly camera, and you can check out my 10th impressions video as well. I've played this game a lot. I've played the demo prototype a lot, and so I'm going to be kind of more critiquing the actual final product itself instead of just talking about how good the game is. So there you go. You know that the game is good in my eyes, but technically, is it? So if I talk quickly about Batman and what it is, it's a mixture of three mechanisms. It is dice combat, primarily, but with strategic placement and area control, mixed with a resource management, which controls both of the other two features, making this a really kind of menage of Euro-style mechanics and Ameritrash theme, because in Batman you are playing either a group of heroes who are reenacting scenes from some of the great graphic novel stories against one other player who is a villain player controlling a team of nasty thugs and some very well-known, you know, evil, I was gonna say méchant, it's French, but nasty masterminds who are trying to do some evil deed. I'm going to start by analysing the base game. The base game comes in 2 boxes. Yes, 2 boxes for just the base game, which seems a bit strange, but this is the world of Kickstarter nowadays, and you're going to get stretch goals and content like that added in, obviously. With a product like this, and that's why it takes up 2 boxes. So that's one thing to take in consideration. Have you got the shelf space for big boxes, and have you got the table space for big games? The reason and idea behind the 2 boxes is to help set up and make it a bit more of a speedy process. When you have your teams, the villain player will take the villain box, which is this one there. The villain box has all the villain characters. You can even put the scenario book in there, and it has the villain tablature where you're going to sprawl out all your minis and monsters and do your damage. Whereas the hero box contains the boards, it contains the components, and again, all the heroes. This is a great idea. It does speed up the gameplay in comparison to other games which have this amount of material stuffed into it. Everything is really well organized, not perfectly. Unlike in Claustrophobia, everything had a space. In this, you will find that you've got no space for your tokens, and you'll be bagging them up and come up with some little system. But everything else is perfect. The minis are in these beautiful boxes, and they have these depictions on the boxes which tell you where they go and what they look like. And that's a huge advantage, having your minis that have their reference cards, which make them easy to find. Because if your mini doesn't look like what it's supposed to be, like in previous Monolith games, where, you know, one character's sitting down on the statuette, but in the card that you have for them, they're stood up, and so finding them is a chore unless you lick all the figurines individually when you're unboxing it. Yeah, this is simple. A minor gripe is some of the figures will need some assembly and maybe a bit of glue. The product quality of the cards and everything is really, really outstanding. The card artwork is obviously very good due to the fact that it's from the comic books itself and from the comic book artists. The control board for the heroes is better than I expected. The way that when you change in and out characters is very simple, and it looks good and is very easy to read. And the villain control board is, yeah, well, perfection. The recesses in these control boards it's just perfect. Everything doesn't move. You don't get confused about where your cubes are when you're doing actions or shifting things around. And a little nudge of the table won't disrupt your game whatsoever. Big bonus. The amount of characters that you have on offer is huge. There's a lot of replayability. There is like 23 missions just in this base game alone. There's a lot of replayability. And that's just including this. This is not including the other stuff that you add onto it. And if you add the versus mode, which I'll talk to you a bit later, you're gonna open up another kettle of worms. No, not another kettle of worms, because that's a bad expression, but you're opening up another door to another kingdom. Now, I was a little bit disappointed with some of the minis because the plastic doesn't seem to have the same rigidity as in previous Monolith games, and so I was a bit taken aback by the wobbly bases of some of the characters, and there's probably even some bendy swords somewhere, but I haven't seen any in my set. But the bendy wobbly bases is a little disheartening. Now, pair the artwork with the minis. I am very, very tempted to start painting, and it's been more than 20 years since I painted a mini. So there is that factor to make them pop out. The way that the colors work as well with the heroes and the villains and the bystanders. There's 3 different color of plastic, which is useful reference and an easy way to find your way around the board when it's set up on the table. Now, I've seen the boards in a very early prototype stage, and seeing them in the final version themselves, they are fantastic. The amount of little details here and there and everywhere is astounding. They're easy to read, I find. I've heard that some people have trouble distinguishing lines and walls and stuff, but it's all well described in the back of the rule book. All the rules that are assigned to each map individually, and these rules, once you've played the scenario 1 or 2 times, you will know how they work with the line of sight, what blocks what, and what height, and the levels of the board themselves, because these boards are not just a flat chessboard battlefield, they are 3D terrain. You're going to be jumping from rooftops, you're going to be swinging above vehicles, and these things will obscure line of sight and obviously obscure maybe just a melee combat. And you will take damage if you fall, and you will take longer for you to climb a wall. And that's where a lot of the fun and planning comes from. The strategic manipulation of your characters around the board all come from the terrain. Tie that in with the characters' abilities and their back gadgets, if they have back gadgets like a grappling gun, which make it easy for them to traverse different levels of terrain quite easily, is the fun of the puzzle solving and working as a team of heroes to try and get from A to B and achieve your objectives. Talking of getting from A to B, from the A of opening the box to the B of actually playing and having fun, is going to be a little bit of a struggle for some players. The rulebook is a vast improvement on the Monolith's previous version of this game, which was called Conan, which is up there. But it's a kind of step back in time. Yes, this is Batman of the 90s, 2000s and everything. but the rulebook feels like it's Batman from the 60s. Even the rulebook looks a bit like a rulebook from the 60s, 70s, and the 80s. You know, those ones with all the paragraphs, you know, section 2.75a. Yeah, it's very much like that. The rulebook is chunky, big, long, repetitive, too repetitive. This will hamper some players from jumping straight into the game because there is a lot of rules to read, and a lot of it is, as I said, repeated. And repeating stuff in rulebooks is not really a bad thing. It's there to enforce the rules, but at the same time, it makes it a very dull and boring read. Now, all the rules are there, which is great. You know, if you've got a question, you can quite easily jump to a section and read that section, and go, okay, yeah, we figured out what the problem was and what the question was with the game. And a lot of those questions are going to be, what does this power mean? What does that do? Because everything is icons. This is a bilingual game, apart from the reverse of the hero cards, which has a bio in French and English of who Bat-Cow is. But everything is icons, and you're going to be spending quite a bit of time in your first few games looking at the back of the rulebook for, one, the map, and checking out the terrain and how it works. But most importantly, you're going to be looking at the powers of the characters, and what's this symbol do and what does this symbol do. Each character has a multitude of actions and special powers which, you know, correlate with a certain action, and a lot of them are not that easy to distinguish. And even with the rulebook, finding those powers can be quite awkward because there's a lot of powers and they're put in alphabetical order. But luckily, recently, Monolith have produced a PDF that you can download, which places all these powers in their respective order. So if there's a punch action that you're going to do and you've got a punch power, you just look under the punch section and it'll have all the powers listed, which is a lot more easier, and it should have been done from the word go. But don't worry, that's something which is easily corrected. So as I said, your first couple of games of the base game will be stop-start due to the fact that there's going to be lots of questions, and especially if you have trouble digesting the rules, yeah, there's going to be questions. Let's move swiftly on to the versus mode. If you pick this up, this little box here contains some minis, some missions, a new kind of rulebook, and a control panel, which will allow one player to go against another player in the same fashion. Yes, because basically Batman is an asymmetrical game where the heroes are using energy to perform individual actions, whereas the villain player is using their control board to use their energy to activate individual units. In this, both players will be having units that they can activate, and they will be doing it in their own time and own style. There's a load of scenarios in here, and the good thing about these scenarios is they will allow you to build your own team. Yes, you can have thugs with shotguns, with thugs with chains, with Harley Quinn and Joker in control. Yes, you'll be able to choose a lieutenant and a commander, and the commander will have a power, a different power to what's in the base game, and these are all stipulated in the rules for this, which they will activate with the activation tile which comes in the control panel. So technically you're going to have a scenario, or you choose a scenario and then you build your little force around it, which can be quite humiliating when you build a team and you include the drones, and it's a bomb defusal mission and the drones don't attack and they don't defuse bombs, and yes, it's quite embarrassing, but an easy mistake to make. Don't. So this versus mode is a nice alternative way of playing the game. Both players play as like they got the control panel, and it does feel like that. The control panel has this new system of not just the energy cubes, but another kind of cube system. Every time you do an activation, you spend one of these ATBs, I think they're called, and then you spend the energy cubes depending on where your characters are on your control panel. And if you wish to do a second activation, you're going to need to spend 2 of these ATBs, and then obviously the energy cubes wherever they are on the river. And if you wish to do a third one, you need to spend 3 ATBs. And so the more tiles you activate in a turn, the more ATBs is going to cost you. And these ATBs are, again, a finite resource, much like the energy. And so this gives you a nice balance, and you're going to be constantly reacting to the other player and what they do. How many tiles did they activate this turn? They might have wiped out a bunch of your guys on your board. Is it best for you to then try and retaliate and activate lots of characters, or save that ATB energy to do it a bit later on in the game, maybe in the last kind of like leg of the game, to just... It's a very calculatory, technical strategy placement game. But then it has this dice element where you're rolling dice, which is totally random. But it's not totally random, because you can mitigate the luck by the amount of energy that you use, or which character you use, especially in the versus mode. In the base game, it's how much energy you spend doing something. But here it's cold. And it's a one-on-one, and you'll have a different way of thinking, because it's going to be your team against their team, instead of either your hero with them helping going against a team, or vice versa. Scenarios are good. They're generic. Some of them feel like the ones from the base game, and I like the ones in the base game. They all have this, they're all written really well as well. They all have this flavored text, which is read out by either Commissioner Gordon, who's giving you a mission, or Oracle, who's giving the heroes a mission, which is nice. And it's very easy to assimilate these mission books, due to the fact that once you've learnt what all the icons are, and what things are, and which part of the page they are, it's all kind of repetitive. Okay, right, okay, everyone starts with this amount of energy. The villain starts with energy here, here, and here. There's these tokens on the board, and they mean this. It's all very, very straightforward. So versus mode is definitely a great way to play the game, especially if you've got 2 players. Instead of having one player play a group of heroes, each with their own board and doing their own energy thing, this is just a great kind of all-out skirmish. There's also a mini expansion that'll let you switch the game around a bit, where a bunch of players will play the villains, and one player will control the control panel and a team of heroes. Finally, the 3 other expansions. There's the Batmobile, which I haven't used yet. It just looks too nice to use. I don't know how it's going to work in the game. I haven't read the scenario, but it's a Batmobile. It looks good. Oh man, does it look good. But it does play a part in the missions. It has its own power-ups and own weapons and things. I'm looking forward to maybe playing that later on. It's not going to be something I'm going to jump to straight away, because, as I said, there's quite a lot in the base game alone. Again, I haven't touched these 2 expansions. As you can see, one of them is slightly chock full more of stuff in it than the other. The Wayne Manor expansion and the Arkham Asylum expansion. But they have a chunk load more of minis, of scenarios, of boards. It's just more of that. It's more of the base game. And the base game, if you love the base game, is great. So if you just bought the base game, maybe you want to get an expansion to make the game even bigger. Wow. Yes, this game is coming back to Kickstarter on June the 4th. So if you did miss out on the whole experience, you'll have a chance to put your foot in the door and get the base game, or base game and expansions, or base game and the new content which is coming. Yes, there's going to be a lot more content coming due to the fact that there are more characters in the Gotham universe, and there will be continued support on their Overlord website, where they'll be publishing new scenarios, not only fan-made ones but also official ones. Thousands of stories of Batman going up against so-and-so, or maybe not Batman going up against so-and-so. And there's another thing that I totally forgot about. The missions give you a choice of characters to play, which is fantastic. And on top of that, it gives then that character a choice of what utility items they put in their utility belt, if they do have a utility belt. So you've got all this choice as a hero from the get-go. Unfortunately, the villain player has no choice. They have this setup, they have this army, and they have to manage that army to the best of their ability. Whereas the heroes, they have to plan ahead and build around the scenario and hopefully do well. As I've said many times, this is a co-op game which works really well with the heroes. You will be talking to them. You will need to work together as a team to succeed. There is no one hero who is better than the other. It's everyone has their own skills and their own abilities to be able to do stuff and make the story that you tell at the end a fantastic story. Whereas the villain player, you can eavesdrop on all this, but the heroes can also eavesdrop on what your plans are by looking at your river. This game works, I think, will work with practically every type of game player, as long as they like dice chucking, randomness of the dice, which can be mitigated, and then also the strategic area control plus the resource management. And because it's semi kind of co-op, if you have an AP player, you make them a hero. If you have an alpha gamer player, you make them the villain. That solves all of those kind of problems and questions. Last up, if you do own Conan and you and are about Batman, you just need to decide, 1, have you got the space? 2, are you a Batman fan or a Conan fan, or both? I am a Batman fan. I love the realms of Conan. I loved Conan when it came out because I loved playing the game. It was such a great experience at the table, all the players working together or working against the other players. It worked really fluidly, it worked really emotionally. You were, clapping hands at the end of the mission. Some missions came down to the last dice roll. Some missions kind of jumped ahead a bit. And it was like the last round, the heroes have won, or the villain has won, you could tell. But there was, you could always try and do that last ditch attempt if you had the energy left. So for me, Conan is going to make space for Batman. I'm going to clear off the shelf and say, sorry Conan, I need Batman. Batman is my thing, baby. Yeah.
What draws me in this game is, first, I love Batman. The second one, I play Conan, I find that good, and when I hear that it's a bit the same, I wanted to try to play it with the Batman version. And when I tried it, I find it really good. And my favorite bit of when you play the game is when you win. No, what I prefer is when you choose your team, because if you play once with some people, the powers. That means if they got some goods, you can take them back, and not take the shit ones. Like yours did drones. People that like to play board games and when they like to play it hard. Because it's not really simple, but I had too many chances because I win first. I wanted to say that game is not really for children. It's more for, maybe for adults, teenager. Oh, something that they have to change, I remember.
Go on.
They have to put colours on the figurines. That's because when there's no colours, it's hard to recognize the people. That's maybe you got the shapes, but sometimes, like the prisoner, you don't really think they're the prisoner. You think, oh, it's maybe somebody else.
So I've got to paint them, have I?
Oh yes, you want to help you, Daddy?
Oh.
I got something to say. If you didn't try the game, play it now because it's a great Quick, quick, quick. You have to play it first.
So let's wrap this up with some scores. My technical score, looking at the game and the components and everything and how it all works and meshes together mechanically and with the rules and with the components. It's a 9 out of 10 due to the fact that it could have been a 10 if the rulebook was more friendly and, you know, open-ended and easier to read. Some reference cards in the game would have been good. Hopefully this is something that will be corrected with the second version, the second season. And as I said, I was a bit disappointed with some of the wobbly minis. It could have been a 10 because my BGG score is definitely a 10 out of 10. This game is outstanding. I love this game system. I love the way that it feels. I love the team interaction when you're playing heroes. It just feels so much better than other games that I've played like this, like Descent and Hero Quest, which is, yeah. Anyway, but this game just feels so great. And with the theme on top, and you know the villains, and you know the powers, and you know the heroes' powers, and it's like you kind of do slip into those roles. It's not so evident as a villain player because you have a team of players. But at the same time, you do kind of like feel like in Arkham City or Arkham, the video game, you feel like you are the Joker behind the control panel and you say, hey, you guys with shotguns, get in there and take care of the Batsy for me. It's like, yes, you feel like that because then it's like, spend energy, move them, activate them, Ellie, perforate them with holes. It's great. So you do have that kind of control feeling, which works really well. But as I said, as the hero players, you do feel like the hero because each hero is individual, each hero has their own powers, each hero has, they're either weak, medium or strong at punching, weak, medium, strong at long range, weak, medium, strong at thinking, weak, medium, strong, etc, etc. And the scenarios, yeah, they're kind of generic, but at the same time, they match in with the story, and if you've read the books, you kind of relate and see how things could have gone if Red Hood leader didn't fall into the vat of acid. So no brainer, this is a 9.5 out of 10 if you combine those two scores together. This is just the kind of game that I kind of love, and my daughter keeps demanding to play it because she loves just building a team of Harley Quinn and Harley Quinn. So there's two Harley Quinns because she's got an imaginary friend. And then obviously her hyenas as well. And she just loves the female characters, Poison Ivy. What can I say? There's lots of great characters and you get to play them. Fun game. But it's only if you're into those things. The resource management, the area control, and the dice chucking. So there you go. Thanks for watching this video. I know it's probably kind of dull and boring and not what you kind of expected. Well, maybe it could have been what you expected because you expected me to say this game is the nuts. But there you go. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you know someone that might be interested in this game and you think my opinion is just worthy, then share this video with them. And for everything else board game related that I do, including my other reviews, my board game music, my board game podcast with Berkey, you can go to boardgameseverybodyshould.com and check out everything there. So thanks again for watching, and I'll say ciao for now, and please play nicely with each other because it is a fight for Gotham City. Just sitting at the table next to Felicia would be quite nice. Wouldn't it be good? I got some board games, I don't know how many. Just like they do on beer and board games.
Oh, it's a sweet ride you got there. I know, it's cool. Hey, do you want to come on? Yeah, let's go.